ever wonder if your law firm website is really up to snuff? If it's really doing the job that you need it to do for you? Well, stay tuned and let's talk about the best practices for your law firm website. Hello, I'm John Delancey, founder of White Raven Technology, a bespoke legal marketing agency, and your host for the Legal Marketing Minute, our weekly video blog and podcast devoted to discussing the tips, tricks, and trends in digital marketing that will help your law firm succeed online. This week, we'll be discussing why your law firm website is so important and a few best practices for ensuring that your law firm website does its job well. So, why is your law firm website so important? Well, in the modern era of business, even if you rely on word of mouth or referral marketing primarily for new business, it is absolutely vital to have a presence online. And to illustrate this point, I want to discuss very quickly a conversation I had with my wife, a fellow millennial, a 30-something, up on tech and all of the benefits it offers, and I asked her, how would you find an attorney if you happen to need one? Assuming, of course, that she would say I would Google it. I would Google bankruptcy attorney in our area, or divorce attorney, or car accident attorney in our area. And she said, no, absolutely not. If I needed a divorce attorney, I would go to this friend. If I needed a bankruptcy attorney, I would go to that friend. If I needed a car accident attorney, I would go to this friend who had a problem a couple years ago and find out who they'd worked with. But, she said, the very next thing she would do is Google the attorney. So while she wouldn't start by Googling, almost worse even for an attorney who does not have a web presence, she would actually Google the attorney's name. And if she couldn't find the information she was looking for, who this attorney is, what they're all about, whether they're a good fit for her needs, if she could not find that information, she would click back and go to the next person in the list. Plain and simple. So, even if you are relying primarily on word of mouth or referral marketing, you need to have this baseline web presence so that people can find you when they turn to the web to look for you. Now, let's talk about some best practices for your law firm website. And the very first one is to think of your website as the hub of all of your marketing, but especially your online marketing. Now, this is a more general way of thinking rather than a specific technical concept. So what you want to do here is think of your website as the center, the very core of all of your marketing efforts. All roads will lead to your website. Now, what do we mean by that? We mean that if you are focusing on social media or pay-per-click or Facebook advertising or LinkedIn advertising or any number of other means of digital marketing, all of them will lead back to your website. Your website is where your visitors come and find out who you are and sign up to potentially become a client. So, you need to think of it as the very center, and everything else you do must be built on top of that center. Now, the second best practice we want to talk about is something we will reiterate through basically everything we talk about, every means of marketing that we discuss, and that is to focus on your client's need, not on how great you are. Now, we've all seen the attorney websites that are out there, and this is the vast majority of attorney websites and business websites in general. Businesses tend to focus on how great they are, how wonderful their products are, how many awesome testimonials or reviews they've gotten from satisfied customers. All of these things that do nothing to actually address why a person is there to begin with. They're there, in the case of a law firm, to find relief from a legal problem. Or perhaps they need estate planning services from an attorney or whatever it might be, but they have a very specific need, and so your website should focus on addressing that need. There's a time and a place for testimonials and attorney profiles and all those other wonderful things that describe how good you are or how great your firm is, but front and center and the primary focus should be you have a problem, dear prospective client. We are here to address that problem, and here's how. Keep that in mind especially on your website itself, but throughout your legal marketing endeavors as well. And finally, the last practice we'll talk about, and this is probably the most important thing I will ever say on this podcast or any other media at all about legal marketing, and that is your law firm website must be mobile responsive. Now, what do we actually mean by mobile responsive? Well, mobile responsive means that your website will look and function well on any sized screen. So, whether it's a desktop computer or a tablet or a smartphone, your website will adjust itself so that it can be read easily and so that it can be easily navigated by whomever is viewing it on whatever size screen they're viewing it. Now, why is that important? Well, Google has recently announced that far more than half of all searches on Google take place on mobile devices. So if someone happens to find your website and then visits, you have 3 seconds. That's all. 1, 2, 3. That is all the time you have to capture their attention and keep them on your website. It's just a fact. Now, if your website looks like it was designed for a desktop computer, the text is going to be impossible to read, very small. The layout is going to be unmanageable on a smartphone. It's going to be nearly impossible to navigate, and you will not capture that attention within 3 seconds. So your visitor will click back and go to the next law firm in the list. So again, the most important thing, the most important piece of advice I could possibly give you right now is that if your law firm's website does not look and perform well on your smartphone, you need to stop the presses, stop spending money and time on anything else, and get it mobile responsive. Whether that means a whole website redesign or just tweaking your existing design, you must have a responsive website. Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. It was a fairly short entry in our normal series, but we wanted to highlight the big picture points on making sure your website is set up for success. And in future episodes, we'll be talking about social media and advertising and managed marketing and all the best practices for all of those things. Now, if you have any questions at all or any comments, please let us know. Leave them in the comments here on YouTube or visit our website, which will be linked in the description, and leave your comments there. And until next week, happy marketing.